words said in the aftermath are just too confusing. Now I spend my days watching you throw stones at someone who's already dead. And if this is the way we all begin, so how can I ask for any more?
Welcome once again to the Stages of Minnesota. It's so nice to see you back again. I don't mind telling you that I was a little worried after my gentle reminder last week to shh, that you might be reluctant to return. I'm relieved to see that you took it in the spirit in which it was intended. And hopefully, we have no need to say any more about it. Wouldn't that be nice? Yes, I think it would too. Anywho, as the owl said, on this episode, we'll have reviews of Cabaret at the Guthrie Theater and one for the wee ones, Madagascar, at the Stages Theater Company in Hopkins, which is home of the Stages of Minnesota. As always, we have a few other trinkets and baubles to dangle before your glazed eyes. But first, let us, you and I together, take a look at my interview with actor and author Will Sturdivant. Will is currently in Winona, Minnesota, acting in 2 shows at the Great River Shakespeare Festival, which runs through July 27th. Most theater fans will recognize Sturdivant even if you haven't been to the Great River Shakespeare Festival, where he's been a company member for 7 years. Will appears regularly at the Guthrie Theater in their yearly Shakespeare plays, as well as others, including their epic production of the Lehman Trilogy last fall. Coming up, you can see Will this fall in the Guthrie's production of Primary Trust. Then, if you're up for a little road trip, you can catch him at the newly renovated Milwaukee Rep, where he'll be performing again in the Lehman Trilogy. In February, he'll be directing the sophomore BFA company at the U of M's production of Othello. We'll link to all of that in the show notes, as well as where you can purchase his upcoming books. To hear more about those and the Great River Shakespeare Festival, here's my chat with Will Sturdivant. Will, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Can you tell the audience what you're doing right now?
Right now, I'm at the Great River Shakespeare Festival in Winona, Minnesota, and we are having our final dress rehearsal this afternoon. I just got off stage. I play the Prince, and so just got off stage, and then I got to be back in about 40 minutes, so we'll chat with you for a while.
All right. Well, since we do have a time limit, we'll skip talking about the weather and all that. My first question is, why acting? What was your path?
Gosh, that's a good question. I grew up in a kind of small town in North Carolina. I was kind of the only person of color in my classes growing up in elementary school. When I went to high school, there was a lot of being mixed. It's like you're too white to be black, you're too black to be white, and you kind of had to find your own niche. And theater happened to be that safe place for me. And I discovered I had so much like built up energy that I just didn't know how to release. And acting provided an outlet for that release. I gained a lot of kind of self-trust and confidence and esteem. And by the end of my 4 years in high school, I was vice president of the student class. I, would walk on stage and get entrance applause. I was a presidential scholar in the arts for theater, which, they only choose 2 every year for that in the countries. It really opened something in me that I just, you follow with what feels good if you're privileged enough to be able to. I think it was more about the kind of ability to let things out that I had just held, but through other people's words. There was an ability to emotionally cleanse while also speaking someone else's words, and that unique link of me and the character became something that I just love. It allows this opportunity to kind of look within and apply ourselves in the shoes of whomever we're playing and in those given circumstances and just bring our full self to those circumstances. And I mean, that's why I keep doing it. You learn more and more about yourself as you put yourself in other people's shoes.
Now, you've been doing the Shakespeare Festival for a long time. I've seen you at the Guthrie a lot in Shakespeare plays and others, obviously. What's your draw to Shakespeare?
Well, yeah, this is my 40th and 41st Shakespeare production since I graduated college. And it first kind of just became because I'm a poet at heart too. That was another way of kind of processing things, was writing poetry. I just am releasing a new book called Interpreting Classical Language. And the idea behind it is to teach all of the different rhetorical devices and punctuation marks and how to express them vocally so as to improve your communication skills in the world, not just while reading language out loud, but also in communicating with others, using things like alliteration and assonance, knowing how to put a definite end to a thought or how to keep a thought suspended with a comma. Those principles are something that I wish to instill in a lot of individuals, because I think communication is the one kind of tool we really have left and control over that has the power to unite and open awareness of someone else's experience.
I did want to ask you about your books. You've actually got two that you're working on, correct? What's the other one?
I have another book of poetry called Bounty, A Pilgrimage in Process. And it marks through various chapters, which I call phases of becoming, kind of ancestral arriving and pain and endurance into the blossom of self-reclamation that I feel today. It's a lot of poetry that kind of spilled out of me at various moments, from kind of the pandemic to like 2022, 23, just moments when all of a sudden there's like a something's just taken over and just writing it for me, And so I kind of curated all of those into one book that I'm releasing with the classical language one as well. And I'm also making a children's book called Hello Word. It's to pair with the classical language book. It's going to teach a little about alliteration and assonance and onomatopoeia and scansion, but in children's book with vivid imagery.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know about that one. That sounds really interesting. That's great. So the pandemic, I think for actors, really hard time, not just for work, but you're used to being on stage and you become very insular. We all did during the pandemic. I assume this poetry, a lot of it, a way to process that, a way to work through that.
Yeah, I was in Brooklyn
when the world shut down.
When the world shut down, it was really hard. I was bartending as well. I had a friend, Andy Grotlushin, and he researched kind of art that came out during the Spanish flu and found that there was very minimal art that came from that. People didn't want to talk about it. You lost so many people, and it was such a private but universally traumatic experience. So I think this poetry kind of helped me along that way, but I definitely, I had a mental breakdown during that time in my little cubicle apartment in Brooklyn. There were sirens every 7 minutes, all through the day, and lots of people that you couldn't go see, like bar regulars that I had that didn't come back. And there was no way to see them, reach out to them, go to their funeral. I mean, it was really hard that way. And, then you're also thinking, what the hell is essential about what I'm doing? I had an existential crisis, as I believe a lot of artists did during that time. The slow emerging out of that was that this is an age-old and needed part of our humanity. And you need to escape and you need to see other people's stories in a safe way and learn to empathize by process of viewing and confront your own biases. I mean, the art is necessary, I believe, for a strong and vital society, but also just for a strong community. I have emerged now with that strength of point of view that what I do is necessary and essential, and I will continue doing it till I cannot any longer.
As you spoke of when you were younger, in a way for you to process information, to be out there, to let go of things that you're holding in. We can't all be actors, but we do get that release, that cathartic experience through watching you and other actors. Art is very important, and I'm glad that you have that confidence now. That was a rough time. It's also nice
too to see people coming back to the theater too. I mean, I would say definitely until maybe even beginning of 24, it felt like man, are we going to get folks back in these chairs? Are we going to continue to be able to share? And so many companies had to fold. So many companies had to take a hiatus, to rebuild, restructure. Thankfully, Great River Shakespeare never did that. Guthrie never did that. 10,000 Things in Minneapolis never did that. And those are kind of my staple core Minnesota theaters that thankfully I could continue that work and reminding myself of its necessity.
Have you had a chance to watch the first episode yet of the show?
Of your show?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, well, you've got something in common with my mother then. Austin and I talked a lot about the future of theater and it being under attack right now by the current administration. So we get through pandemic and we're worried, are people going to come back? And they're starting to come back. And now we're being attacked financially another way, which audience is not coming back. That's another financial thing. So it really is a struggle right now. It's great to see that the Great River Shakespeare Festival just keeps going. Tell us about how you got started with Great River Shakespeare Festival, the roles you're playing this year, what shows you guys are putting on, and how it all works.
I started in the summer of 2019 after I didn't act for about 3 years in New York. I was bartending and I was opening the bar on like a Sunday at noon, which I always hated because nobody was going to be there till 4. But I had a friend that I was like, come hang out with me. And she was like, I can't. I'm talking to somebody who was a founding company member here at Great River. And they're actually looking for another actor for this season coming up because someone took a different contract. And she said, and I mentioned you, so you're going to get an email and just do what the hell they say. And, I sent in a video and that was my first summer here. And I've been back every summer. 2020, we did a lot of kind of virtual play readings and little fundraisers and whatnot. I honestly love it. It's so great. Now I know a lot of people in the community. It's a very strong and supportive community for the arts. This year, I am the prince and apothecary in Romeo and Juliet. So I get to watch these two. This is one of those things that it's very rare to be in an ensemble that you believe at various moments that, on my 40th and 41st Shakespeare, that I'm the weakest link. It's such a strong and supportive ensemble. And these two young actors, Alessandro and Serena, who play Romeo and Juliet, are just like magic. I think back to my time graduating college and like the ability, the language skills they have are just extraordinary, and their heart and freedom is even more joyful to witness. And you realize that, there are plays that are really cliche and get a bad rap because of that. But, it's cliche because it speaks universally to so many people that they think they can do it too. And a lot of times do it poorly. Right. So cliches get a bad rap, but when it's done with intention and authenticity and skill and craftsmanship, the magic that's released and it's just flowing at you as an audience member is extraordinary. I cry every time I watch that damn balcony scene. They get me every time. So that's Romeo and Juliet. And then we're also doing Comedy of Errors. And that play has 2 sets of twins, kind of master and servant sets. And, they get confused for each other. And that's how all the comedy ensues. Comedy ensues.
Hopefully.
And I'm playing one set of the twins, of the like master twins, and then the servant twins are played by Emily Fury Daly. And so, it's like, how do we differentiate the characters? How do we keep track of where is this character? Like, what is their arc throughout the day? Because it's different than the other one, Right. Who am I now? I don't know that I've actually led a comedy, like led it to this extent where you're playing both of the things. You're in almost every scene. It is hard and thankless in the beginning. We still haven't had an audience yet, so you're doing the same thing over and over, and you're like, it just gets less funny as you go, so tomorrow night is our first and only preview of Comedy of Errors. So it'll be nice to have bodies in there to know if anything is clicking or not.
Yeah.
But it's a great season. There's only 9 actors, very diverse and very intergenerational, and it's a stunning season to be a part of. And everyone should try their best to make it down here.
I've seen the Comedy of Errors once, and I can't remember. Do your twin characters appear on stage at the same time ever?
They do. They do. And
we have a
little thing for that.
Or...
Well, you'll just have to come see.
Okay.
You can't give away the ending.
That's true. I will be there on July 11th to see both shows.
Because they do the 2 shows on Fridays, I think. It's 2 on Fridays and 2 on Saturdays. And it just opens up the ability for people to come, and have an extended weekend, but also get back home on Sunday, for their beginning of their work week.
Before I let you go, I think we've got a little time left. There's a game I want to play with you. I've got 5 questions. If you get them all right, the artistic director, Doug Schultz Carlson, has taken your keys to your car and hidden them somewhere on campus. We're going to tell you where they are.
I gotta get these right.
If you get them all right, you're going to get... Otherwise, I'm sure you'll find them eventually.
Right.
And I think Doug said if you buy him a drink, he'll
just give them to me.
So I'm going to give you the quote, and I want you to tell me who the character is, and for an extra point, what play it comes from.
Okay.
Thou art sensible in nothing but blows, and so is an ass.
That is Antipholus of... Give me a second. Thou art sensible to nothing but blows, and so is an ass. Ephesus. Antipholus of Ephesus, and Comedy of Errors.
You got it right. Okay, great.
That was a tricky one.
Yeah.
The 2 twins,
Here's the next one. And remember, if you can give me the title of the play as well, that's an extra point. Go hence to have more talk of these sad things. Some shall be pardoned, and some punished. For never was there a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. So first, you got to get the play and the character.
As opposed to what it says, it is Romeo and Juliet, and not Juliet and Romeo.
I thought I might stump you there.
And that's the time, yeah, I really did. And that is the Prince, his line, although at different times, some productions have it as chorus. But I am, and in this play, this Romeo and Juliet is a memory play from the nurse's perspective, who loses so many people, her husband, her daughter, Tybalt, Juliet, Romeo. And so she ends up saying the last couplet of never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and Romeo. But it's the Prince's lines in the folio. Okay?
You got it. I don't know how you're doing this. You seem to be getting them
really
all.
Complicated ones.
Well, I thought they would be. Okay, here's the next one. I will live in thy heart, die in thy lap, and be buried in thy eyes. And moreover, I will go with you to your uncle's.
That is Benedict from Much Ado About Nothing. Played that last year.
How are you doing this?
Why is that so familiar?
You played all these characters. Okay. Have you ever played Hamlet?
I have not played Hamlet. Yeah.
I think I know how to stump you here.
Let me
so you got to get the character and the play.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them?
To die, to sleep. That is Hamlet from Hamlet.
Are you getting a reflection from my glasses of the answers?
You got some softballs here now. This is 40
I
and
thought
41
these were
kind
kind of tricky. Okay, so you're really good at this. You've apparently read every role in Shakespeare. So I am going to not give you a full line. I'm just going to give you part of a line.
Okay.
Okay? Is there
Is there is no next?
I'm not giving you
Something
hints.
underneath the stars that could see into my grief? Is there no I feel like that might be Romeo that I'm thinking of a line of, but I don't know. I don't know. What do you got? You didn't even know.
That is the clown from The Winter's Tale.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well,
either buy
got
a
me.
drink for Doug or,
I have a lot of bonus points now. So
yeah. Well, that's true. You're right. You're right. I'm going to let Doug know to just give you your keys. You got, yeah, I don't know how you did it. It's kind of amazing. So, Will, I want to really thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it, particularly just carving out some time during dress rehearsal to come. You're wearing your Prince costume there, I believe.
I am.
So we're getting a little sneak peek of that.
That's right.
We're right at the end of the time here, so I'm going to let you go.
All
Break
right.
a leg.
Thank you.
I will see you on the 11th.
See you on the 11th.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it. I've just learned that apparently Doug lost Will's keys while they were in his possession. Understandably, this upset Will, and he immediately returned to the stage and hath banished Romeo from fair Verona, where their scene was laid. That's all the information we have at this time, but we'll update you throughout the episode as more information becomes available on this breaking news. Before we get to this week's review, here's a little something I put together from the opening night at Cabaret at the Guthrie Theater, which features, among other things, a pop-up Kit Kat bar on level 4 of the theater. Let's check it out. I'm Rob Dunkelberger, reporting for the stages of Minnesota. I'm at the Guthrie Theater for opening night of Cabaret. It's downtown Minneapolis, June 26, 2025. Or is it? Is it actually Berlin circa 1931? Because here we are at the Kit Kat Club. And the drinks are delicious. I'm here with Erica Scarlett of Letterden Theater, and it looks like you're all dolled up. How did that happen?
There's a MAC counter for opening night and a couple nights throughout the run to get your lipstick ready and ready for the show.
It's opening night at the Guthrie, and I have seen the show before, but you have...
Never seen it. Everything I know about Cabaret, I know from Schitt's Creek. So I'm going in completely knowing nothing, and I'm very excited about that.
I think you're going to love it. You were with me at the Sitzprobe rehearsal, and that sounded amazing, didn't it?
Oh, it sure did. That's an incredible cast.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. Whether it moves me to cheers or tears, puts me to sleep, or gets me up on my feet. These are my Minnesota Honest reviews. Truthful, but not hurtful. Cabaret closes out the Guthrie season in grand style, directed by Guthrie artistic director Joseph Hodge. This production doesn't shy away from the ugly underbelly of the world, place, and time in which it takes place. This is Berlin in the early 1930s, as the Nazi Party is beginning to rise in power. But it also doesn't skint on the skin and scintillation. The period of freedom and openness and perhaps excess that allowed conservative forces to frighten the masses into regressing to an empathetic Stone Age is on full display. What I assume has to be an ad-lib. The MC, played by Joe Lampert, to divine perfection, both as naughty provocateur and ultimately tragic symbol of those crushed under the boot heels of evil, says, "Love is love." For a throwaway line, it's the one that speaks the most urgent truth to our times. Sometimes I feel like every show I see has something urgent and vital to say to audiences. Written by Joe Masteroff, book, John Kander, music, and Fred Ebb, lyrics, Cabaret debuted on Broadway in 1966. That was another time of social unrest, and one can see how the authors could see parallels to their world. What would they think if they could see us now? Cabaret strikes me as an unusually structured musical. Cliff, an American writer, and Sally, a nightclub performer, appears to be the boy meets girl couple of the traditional musical. But Cliff is bisexual, and Sally is a nightclub performer. There is a secondary couple, Fräulein Schneider and Herr Schultz, an older couple, who have a flirtation and then realize they're old and what are they waiting for? So they look to get married. The end for each couple is not what you're used to seeing in a musical. A weird thing is that the A couple storyline and the B couple storyline combined make up perhaps 50% of the show. The real star of Cabaret is the MC. The best numbers have nothing to do with Cliff and Sally. In fact, for a show that one feels should be about her, the character of Sally could disappear from the plot and you wouldn't really lose that much. Let me be clear, I'm not talking about the performance by Mary-Kate Moore, which is very strong. I'm talking about the character and the plot. The cast is terrific, led by Joe Lampert, who, along with the Kit Kat Club Ensemble, are what you will leave the production remembering. There's one scene that was an unexpected knockout for me. It's between Fräulein Schneider and Herr Schultz. They're singing Married, and they are joined by Monet Sabel as the chanteuse. Sabel has a beautiful voice, and this quiet little romantic moment works in contrast to the more risque songs that pepper the rest of the show. Choreographer Casey Sams makes each number at the Kit Kat Club unique and memorable. Very memorable. Some of my favorite technical moments came from the lighting and sound cues by lighting designer Josh Epstein and sound designer Mikael Suleiman. Their work helps to bring out some of the darker emotional moments with a sudden immediacy. Mark Hartman, as music director, has his own tricks up his sleeve, which I will not spoil, but there's a moment that surprises us and lands an emotional punch we aren't quite expecting. I've seen Cabaret performed 3 times now, and this is my favorite production so far. If you've never seen it, like my colleague Erica, this is the production to see. If you have and love it, you will not want to miss what Joe Hodge and the Guthrie have concocted. Cabaret runs through August 24th at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis. We'll link to the Guthrie page on the show notes where you can read more about the show and purchase tickets. Madagascar, a musical adventure, is a stage adaptation of the popular DreamWorks animated film that came out when my kids were little. So I know I saw the film, but to be honest, it has completely left my memory. I have some vague memory of penguins and lemurs, but that's about it. Luckily, prior knowledge of the film is not needed to enjoy this simple tale of zoo animals who go looking for something more. As with most children's shows, there's a positive message about friendship, and this one focuses on best friends Alex the lion and Marty the zebra. It's Marty's 10th birthday, and she's having a midlife crisis. She's halfway through her life, and she still doesn't know if she's black with white stripes or white with black stripes. When she decides to leave the zoo and see what's out in the world, her friends, led by Alex, go after her to bring her back. Somehow they all end up in crates on a ship in the ocean. They go overboard and wash up on the shores of Madagascar. There, they're befriended by the lemurs, who hope Alex will protect them from their carnivorous enemies, the Fusa. Meanwhile, Alex is getting hungry. And while his friends are content with the lemur's vegetarian diet, Alex's instincts begin to get the better of him. I think most kids are going to have a great time with this show. The songs are fun and lively, and there's even a more poignant lament sung by Marty that's really kind of beautiful. The cast, a mix of strategically placed adults and lots of kids, do a great job. The costume and makeup designer, Samantha Frome-Hadow, deserves full marks for the wonderful animal costumes. I loved the hoofs and headpiece on Marty, particularly, and the penguins, which are puppets controlled by actors dressed like Jake and Elwood Blues, are really well done. There's a nice set design too by Joe Johnson, effective as a zoo and then surprisingly lush when transformed to Madagascar. If your wee ones like animals and music, they will have an adventure with this show. The audience I saw it with really got into it, clapping along and dancing in their seats. Or, maybe they just need the restroom. Either way, it's a fun show for families. Madagascar, a musical adventure, runs through August 3rd at Stages Theater Company in Hopkins. We'll post a link in the show notes to the Stages website. We've just been given an update on the situation in Verona. It appears that Romeo is dead. I repeat, Romeo is dead. No word yet on how this tragedy occurred and if Will Sturdivant had anything to do with the death. We are told that when he banished Romeo, it was under pain of death. Given that the body was discovered in Verona, it certainly seems possible that Sturdivant played a role. We'll be back with any new developments as they come in on this breaking story. For now, here's a look at who I saw out at the theater this week.
Do I really have to go? Hard pressed to find a reason to brave the cold. So warm inside your cabin, give me just another moment. Wrapped inside the blanket of your body, the blanket of your body. Time to hit the open road. Loving arms await me, their domain knows me alone. Never a single question, 35 years full of holiday cheer, and still no invitation for my +1.
The Tale of the Keys ends in the clearing of Will Sturdivant. The death of Romeo has been ruled a suicide. But the woes do not end there. The secret bride of Romeo, young Juliet Capulet, has in a signal of her devotion and what Matilda called a touch of stupidity, also died by suicide. Sturdivant has issued this statement: "Go hence to have more talk of these sad things. Some shall be pardoned and some punished." We're unsure what he means by that exactly, but the statement continues, "For never was there a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo." And on that sad note, this episode of the Stages of Minnesota comes to a tragic end. But we'll be back next week with more theater fun. I want to thank Will Sturdivant again for coming on the show and for playing the Shakespeare game. We had a lot of fun with that. We'll link to the Great Rivers Shakespeare Festival website on the show notes, as well as how to get your hands on Will's upcoming books. We had some fun with Romeo and Juliet on this episode, but suicide is a serious issue. If you're having suicidal thoughts, you're not alone, and there is help out there. We'll link in the show notes to 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Remember, if you see me at a show, don't be shy. Say hi. Ask for a picture, and you may find yourself on the Stages of Minnesota. If you have comments, questions, suggestions of topics you'd like to see covered, are interested in sponsoring an episode, or just need to look busy at work, you can email me at robdunkelberger@thestagesofmn.com. Thanks, as always, to Ryan Lee for the generous use of his music. Every note of music used on the Stages of Minnesota comes from one of his albums, which you can find at ryanlee.bandcamp.com. Remember, you can read all of my reviews at my blog at thestagesofminnesota.com. Whether you're watching the YouTube edition or listening to the podcast version, remember, always keep your eyes on the road. If you enjoyed the show, please help spread the word. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and review the show. I'd also like to point out that because subscriptions to the show are free, you can get 4 for the price of 1. Until next week, as Carol Jackson proclaimed from the steps of the Minnesota State Capitol, go see a show! Go see a show! Go see a show!
'Cause it's all over but the shouting. Every soul needs light. My mind's been wasting away in the afternoon shade, out of sight. And I am not the pure and perfect one, but my branches are still bent toward the sun.